Hello, and welcome to the Happy Insights podcast. I am your host, Happy Ali, and I know that you really want to watch this and listen to this episode because it's about the one thing that's on most of our minds, which is love and relationships. This episode is titled Relationship Hacks, and I have an expert on the show. He is a marriage and family therapist. I want to welcome to the show, Colin Stack-Troost.
Happy, thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you.
Oh, thank you so much. Colin is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for a while, a decade or so.
A long time.
And neither of us were therapists or coaches or any of this stuff before we started, but we were experts on life. So we have an upper hand. No.
Well, and we were in a position. Can we say how we know each other?
Yeah, we can know. It's
Okay,
fine.
so we worked together in retail, and we were at Barney's together in
Right.
Beverly Hills, right? And our jobs involved working with people all day, right? So we were relationshiping with our clients all day. And I think about how this was actually amazing practice for us to do the work that we do now. And I just love that we had these kind of similar journeys into, taking our magic powers that we developed back in the day into more intentionally supporting people's mental health and wellness. So yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to see
Of
you.
course. Thank you so much. So we're going to tell the viewers and the listeners what to expect for this show. So when I say relationship hacks, it's going to be about 3 stages of your relationships. So the first one's going to be the pre-relationship stage, before you start a relationship, and the mindset to get into before you start a relationship or start to date. The second one is during the dating process, which could have its own episode, but this is a short episode. We're going to go through those really fast. And the third one, the stage of the post honeymoon stage, which is where you're kind of getting a little bit more stagnant. The energy exchange is not as fun anymore. The sex stops being so fun, and you need to zhuzh the relationship back up. And that's the reason I really wanted Colin on the show, because his expertise is in the reawakening the relationship fire.
I'm a zhuzh expert.
He's a zhuzh expert. And mine is more in the beginning stages, because I'm really good with manifestation and working on my mental blocks. But I want you to feel free, Colin, to chime in, because I know you're an expert on every level, because I will chime in on your levels. Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. So the first stage I want to talk about is the pre-dating stage, the mindset you have to get into before you start putting yourself out there. Because I know people who haven't really been dating for a while because they had children, or they just had a big dry spell, or they just finally realized their own worth. And they want to put themselves out there, and they just don't know what to do. What's the first step? How do I meet somebody? What's the first step? So what would they do? I'm going to ask you this. What should they do? Like go online, or what do you suggest? How do people actually put themselves out there?
I think online we have to embrace, right? Like we have it, it was a kind of weird thing like years ago, but now like it's a marketplace for dating options, right? And there's so many different dating sites I can't even keep track anymore. But this gives you an opportunity to put yourself out there and connect with people, right? And start a relationship that way.
And
right?
Absolutely. So what I want to say in terms of my spiritual advice, my manifestation advice in the very beginning, is set your intention, put it out there. You'll be surprised what the universe is willing to deliver when you decide. You make a decision. You say, hey, I'm ready to date, universe. I'm ready, and I expect you to find a way for me to find someone. And then follow your hunches, because you might look at one app and feel negative when you look at it, and you might look at another app and just light up. So it's really important to be in touch with your intuition after you've set the intention, because the universe cannot guide you if you don't set your intention first. So set the intention. I'm ready to date. And that's the mindset you need to have in the very beginning. I'm ready.
I think you're spot on with what you're talking about right now. You have to signal to the universe that you are ready to receive what you say that you are desiring.
And then you have to show the universe that you're ready. So what's one thing, Colin, that you can do to show the universe in your physical space that you're ready?
So I noticed with my client that as we were working together, that they were sleeping in a twin bed in the background. And so we talked about this, and they realized that even if their like perfect romantic partner like showed up at their door that moment, like they literally would not have a place to receive that relationship. So it's things like that. So you, with the power of manifestation, you want to what? You want to act as is, right? You want
Yeah.
to act as if it's already happening.
So what I do is I actually clean out parts of my closet to make space in case I actually am in a relationship, so they have room to put their stuff. And the closer I get to feeling like the relationship is coming, the more space I actually create. I also start cleaning as if someone's coming over. That's a huge one. If your place is a mess
Absolutely.
and your environment is not welcoming, then you're really not signaling anything out into the universe. You can think things all you want, but you have to show in your behavior and your environment and everything that you do that you're living the future reality that you want already. So that's my main tip in the pre-stage, how to start attracting someone. And then follow your gut. When you're dating someone, when you're putting your profile on any kind of app, be honest and be as deliberate and as detailed as you can be. A lot of people, what they do is they make themselves look better and they're more vague because they don't want to repel the people. But what you want to do is repel a lot of the people. If you can repel a lot of people by being who you really are, that's a lot of dates you don't have to go on.
Absolutely. Show up authentically, even in how you are filling out your profile and initially describing yourself. In my work with clients, sometimes we will literally go through their profile and I will help them design the way that they are talking about themselves to make sure that that's authentic to them, right? You just want to put your authentic self out there.
Yeah. And who cares if you don't get messages from someone every 5 minutes? The important is that you get a message from the right person.
Exactly.
Now, if your goal is to have as much sex as possible, then do whatever you have to do. But that's not really what we're talking about here. This episode is to help you find an authentic mate, someone that you can be with for longer than just one night.
Absolutely. And I just want to add also, so we talk about apps as a way for people to start with, exploring how to potentially connect with a partner. There's other opportunities here too. So to get people to think about like hobbies that you really love and enjoy that would lead you to participating in some sort of group. Maybe that's rock climbing or pottery or a hiking group or something like that. So you're doing something that you just love that's authentic to you. And if you're, doing that in a group of people where there's an option to connect with people who also love doing something like that, then, that can be a really great way to start a relationship with someone.
I think that's even better than an app, to be honest with you. But, we got to just take what we can get.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you're doing something that you love, that vibration you're putting out there is so powerful. It's almost like you're magnifying your regular vibration and the signal goes out even further. And it's just great when you get to see someone on a regular basis. Research shows that when you see someone on a regular basis, you're more likely to fall for them and see them for who they really are, as opposed to when you're going on this date that, you're just uncomfortable doing and you're just putting your best foot forward and you have no idea what's about to happen. And I always say you don't really know the person you're dating for about a year or two after you start dating them. So it's really hard. It's really hard. But if you get to see them regularly, it makes a huge difference.
You gotta see them for all 4 seasons, right?
Yeah.
To get a full picture.
And I always say you got to see them when they're angry and when they're in a bad mood, because everyone's nice when they're in a good mood.
Oh yeah.
And I always want to see how they resolve, conflict, because that's so important. Okay. So that being said, when you're dating, when you meet somebody, I really just want to say, be open to multiple dates. Don't already decide that you like them or not like them, unless they have a real huge deal breaker, which you should have already written out your deal breakers in advance so you don't get hypnotized by the physicality. Because a lot of times, if you don't write out your deal breakers right away, when you're seeing somebody, you will forego your own desires or what you want because you get caught in the moment. So it's important to acknowledge your deal breakers, hand it to your friends, let them tell you when you're actually, abandoning your own desires or what your deal breakers are. But once you're with them, if they're not checking off the deal breakers, go on a 2 or 3 dates or something, and don't make huge assumptions about that person until you get to know them, because it's really just a weird situation to be in when you're starting to date people. You're not yourself, they're not themselves, and you don't know who they are. And you got to give it a chance for it to, for the thick ice walls to melt, and then so you can see the person for who they are. Do you agree?
Absolutely agree. I mean, think about when you're first dating somebody, right? Like you are showing up to that date like as the best version of yourself, right? Like you did your hair all cute. You thought about your outfit, right? Like you're not pressed about work because you're going into this date like, okay, I'm on a date right now, right? But then as you start to get to know someone, you spend more time together. It's exactly to your point. You see the different moods, the energy fluctuations. You see somebody, what they're like on a bad day, or when they're stressed, or when they're sick, or they're, something's going on in their family, they're not feeling well. And it's important to get a sense of what they're like, and also for them to get a sense of what you're like when those moments happen, because that's life. And that's what a partnership is going to be, is supporting each other through the ups and downs.
And I feel like in our culture right now, people are so quick to just say no and
Oh,
walk away.
first sign of a problem, they're out, right?
Done. Well, some people don't even make it to second date because people are just going the first date and they're like, "Oh, I don't like how he cut his toenails, or she did her nails," and then and
Yeah.
then they walk away. But the truth is, you don't know what's going on. So give it at least 3 or 4 dates, unless there's a huge deal breaker,
Right.
and you just know there's no chemistry, there's nothing, there's something that they're
Yeah.
doing that you hate, or you don't like their something or other. Any other tips while people are dating? What about honesty? How much of themselves should they put out in the very beginning?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, vulnerability is tough, because we're scared that like if people really see that certain parts of us, that they're going to leave us. Right.
Yeah.
But you also have to decide like at what pace to like fully reveal yourself to somebody that you're getting to know. Right. You don't want to like trauma dump your entire like life and backstory and like relationship history on somebody that you're just getting to know on your first date. Right. And I do think that a certain level of privacy is okay, even in couples that have been together for years. You don't have to reveal everything about yourself to have a successful, intimate relationship, right? It's okay.
Unless it's deceit. I think deceit is
Unless
where
it's
we
deceit. Yeah,
I will draw the line on deceit, because
exactly.
privacy is one thing. There's something about you that you just want to hold to yourself, and it's dear and near to your heart, or it's
Yeah.
something that's really not important in the context of the relationship. But I think that it's good to make sure that deceit is not something that you're holding private. Because if you want a lasting relationship, it's important to make sure that it's built on a strong foundation, which is my next thing that I wanted to cover. When you're starting to date, make sure you clear out old cobwebs. Don't go dating people if someone's cheating on someone else, or just the foundation, the beginning stages. Pretend that it's the foundation you're building for something, really a big building to stand on. Because chances are, if you build that relationship on that stronger foundation, it will have a better chance to survive.
Hmm. I would just add that, you don't have to be fully healed to be open to a relationship, right? A lot of people think that they need to like have gotten to like graduate or something from therapy, for example, before they're allowed to be open to romantic experiences. And I would just say, like, as long as you're in a position where you are, what we call doing the work, you have support systems in place, you have resources that you can tap into when life gets hard or when your triggers or challenges come up for you, how to support yourself with those things. And that is an important indicator for me that you are still ready to be open to connect with people, and you don't have to have everything figured out, but when life gets challenging, you know what to do to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. I agree with that, because that's part of perfectionism in my world, where sometimes, even for me, I have to make sure that everything is perfect before I put myself out there. Then I realize, wait, what am I doing? The whole point of this is to put myself out there. Now, I do strongly advise against starting to date when you're a big, big, big mess, because if you are falling apart at the seams, then chances are, because of law of attraction, you'll meet someone else that's falling apart at the seams. So just have your pants halfway pulled up at least. Don't have, to me, in my world, I've noticed when I meet people, if I'm, let's say, in a drinking phase, I meet an alcoholic, or if I'm in a stage where I was grieving, everyone I met was grieving in some way or another. So remember, law of attraction is not going to bring you a rescuer. It's not going to bring you something that's too far outside of your vibration, unless you're someone who just needs to be taken care of, and they'll find someone who just wants to take care of someone. But that's not super healthy either, because you want balance. Okay, so that being said, we talked about the environment, the mindset, the behavior. Is there anything else you want to add to the dating process before we move on to the next stage?
Let's move on.
Damn it. I was hoping you had something else to add.
I mean, I could. I do.
And let's see, anything else?
Okay. So I guess back to the subject of showing up authentically. One thing, let's take a moment and remember like what it was like to date in our early 20s, right?
Some of you might be in your early 20s now. So yes.
Yeah, totally. So like one thing that I remember from that period of my life was like I tried to mold myself into something that the person I was dating would like. And this often meant like betraying myself, betraying my authenticity, because I was really hoping that this person would like me and that this relationship would work out. And they'd be like, oh, I really love this band, and I'd be like, me too. And I'm like googling the band because I have no idea. Or they're like I love I really love Thai food, and I'm like, yep, Thai food, my favorite.
Sounds great.
But but I'm like, ooh.
By the way, I hope you like Thai food, because
honestly, I hope you do, because it's
it's so good.
Yeah, ultimate comfort food. But anyway, so like let's say that's not your gig, and then all of a sudden, like years later, you're relationshiping with someone, and they they go to play that music, and in your head you're like, oh, like again, or like they're like, babe, what should we order tonight? And they're like, how about Thai food? It's my favorite. And you're like, right. So you're like, haven't showed up authentically as yourself. This is coming from the work of Brene Brown, by the way, who's an amazing researcher. Talks a lot about shame and vulnerability, and the philosophy of how we connect interpersonally. She's amazing. So we'll throw some links up in there so you can dive into her work a little bit more. But just wanted to give credit.
No, I love that. No, and I love that, and I realized that on my own. No, but I realized that whenever I had to conform to someone else's needs, I would lose a big piece of myself.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
a lot of times it was a good piece that I was losing, which is so sad, because later you realize, oh shoot, that part of me is gone.
And I've been performing for this person, and I'm exhausted because that's not really me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to mention during the dating process, which is really important, is it's okay to be found out. Now, what does that mean? That means if there's something about you that you think someone's going to hate, like, for example, if you have some sort of a hang up about your body, or just something you think that, how would someone love me? How could someone love me with this condition that I have? Give them a chance. Don't walk away before they can see whatever it is that you're afraid to show.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people will surprise you. Some people won't. Some people will be like, ew, I'm walking away. And some people, the right people, will look at you and say, are you crazy? Like, that's nothing. Don't you realize how much I like you? And whatever it is that you thought was going to be a turnoff for me, or something that was going to make me walk away, is actually making me love you more, because you're more relatable, or there's so many other things. That is really important, because I know people, or myself, that have walked away from certain things because I didn't want to get hurt, or people don't want to get hurt, or they're just like, okay, let me just bow out now because I can already predict what's going to happen. Which brings me to the next one. Don't make predictions. You are not a psychic, and even psychics can't make predictions. Live it out. What do you have to lose? The worst comes to worst, you get hurt. And then you can go to therapy, you can go to him, and he'll make some money. And then you get some other shit that's hiding in there out. But listen, don't be afraid to experience things. Life is about experience. It's not about the end result. So worst comes to worst, you learn something, and you realize something about yourself or other people or your own boundaries or something. So allow yourself to experience something, even if it means possibly getting hurt and turned down. Don't close the door on something before it has a chance to express itself.
I love what you're saying, right? It takes courage to put ourselves out there into the world. And that courage comes from, I think, realizing that at some point, because it's life, you're going to inevitably fall down,
You
right?
will get hurt. You're going to get hurt
You're going to get
regardless.
hurt. You're going to feel rejection. You're going to feel heartbreak. And you're also going to learn that you can survive those things and that you can be open to love still, even after that's happened to you.
I love that. Okay. I think this is a really good place to end this stage of the relationship. Now we're going to go to the next stage. The next stage is the honeymoon stage, which I think my advice for the honeymoon stage is that be aware that you're in a hypnotic hormonal trance.
Really that happy. You're right on.
Right.
You know, this you're in a stage of the relationship where there is a hormone release that's happening and it feels amazing. I think those of us who have been through this stage, you know exactly what we're talking about right now.
The honeymoon stage.
Things are flowing. You're really connecting with the person that you're dating. There's even like a little bit of a delicious kind of angst to it too. You're thinking like, when are they going to text me back? Are they as into this as I'm into this? You know, are they thinking about me? And then that rush, like when you see each other, right? It just like, it's a amazing stage of a relationship. The sex is great, you know.
One hopes.
One hopes.
Everything is
Hopefully
great.
at that stage is good. With my clients, when they're like initially talking about something and they're like, yeah, we're just not connecting sexually, the chemistry's not there. And I'm like, oh, it's too early for this.
Yeah. You need to make sure that it's at least if you got to be past the honeymoon stage for things to start going south. But it's really important for you to recognize that this is a biological process that was built into our bodies to make sure that we have this experience, that we're enamored by someone, so we have enough time to make a baby.
Exactly.
So that's really what it is, but it was not designed to last. So it's really not designed to last. That kind of love will fade. And a lot of people are so addicted to that hormonal rush that as soon as it starts fading, they don't give it the time that it requires to rebuild the new relationship that you're in with the same person. And they walk away and they meet somebody else and they will ride that, because it can last up to a year for some people.
Yeah.
And they will ride it out until that's gone again. And then they'll go for the next, because it is just as addictive as a drug. And if you're somebody who's able to get it left and right, you can just end the relationship and do it again. But this is not how you get a lasting relationship.
The science behind it is actually really fascinating. Is like the different hormones that are being released, right? And after 3 months, those like, I mean, people have equated this in like the research that's being done, that the release is almost like a rush from doing like a drug. You get like this rush.
Endorphins.
The endorphin rush is like you're almost like going through withdrawal when you're like in between seeing like your love object, the person you're dating, this you know interest. And so but after 3-ish months, like as that starts to fade, so that like that burst of the excitement fades, but is replaced by this oxytocin hormone connection that happens. And this is the love cuddle hormone, right? So it doesn't come with that same like rush, that same thrill of excitement that you get from the initial honeymoon stage, but there's this incredible feeling of safety and comfort in this pair bonding hormone that is oxytocin.
And that one you actually have to work to keep.
You got to work to keep it.
And because if you don't, it can, dissipate. You can get it back, but it's not something that's just there overpowering you. You have to actually engage with your partner to release the hormones, because, as soon as you touch your partner and you look at them adoringly, or you do something kind for them or something, that hormone is released for both of you. So there's many things that I think we're going to get into that, because that's the next phase. So the honeymoon stage, I don't think there's too much to talk about other than
it is what it is. We know her. Yeah. We know her.
It's lovely. And make sure you don't stop calling your friends. Make sure you keep your friends in the loop, because the biggest mistake people make is they literally shut off from the entire world while they're in the honeymoon stage. And that
guilty.
Yeah. I know. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Drag me.
No, but the truth is that happens. That really happens. People shut themselves off from the world and then they create an island, and that puts too much pressure on the relationship. And also now they've lost touch with the people that would have held them up when they're going through turmoil or difficult times. So remember, you need to have your friends, be a part of it, be a part of the experience. Don't go off into an island. And that's a mistake a lot of people make, and they usually regret it, because I work with a lot of people and they say, oh my God, being with him was great, but then I lost all my friends. Because your friends realize that you were only with them because you needed them at the moment. And now if you're satisfied and you're not thinking about your friends, then people will question, what was our friendship about? And some people will no longer want to, continue the relationship after. Another thing I want to say really quick is involve both friends. Like bring your partner into your friends group and go into theirs. Mix the worlds up a little bit.
Yeah.
Make sure that it's not isolated, because, you should be able to mix everything. And I always say, if your relationship doesn't seem to blend in with your life, it might be a wrong relationship.
If you want to be my lover, you got to get with my friends.
I've heard that before. Where's that from?
The eternal wisdom of the Spice Girls actually does apply for this moment that we're talking about.
Absolutely. No, I love that. No, it's true. It's absolutely true. And so friends are important. And sometimes your friends will see things in the beginning because you are under the influence that you might not see. So be open to what your friends say, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Listen, those red flags sure are heart-shaped sometimes, and your friends are going to be able to see it for what it really is, and steer you in the right direction, right?
Exactly. So now we've made it to the point where the honeymoon stage is over, and now life feels a little dull. It's not the same. It's not as exciting. What do you do?
This is when couples come to therapy, right? This is like where I start to work with them.
Wait, can I say something?
Yes.
I also suggest going to therapy from the beginning.
Oh my God, go early. Most of my couple clients are arriving at therapy like 6 months to a year late. If you go when things are not in crisis mode, when things are not on fire, you start to like create this support system, like a container for you to continue to work on the hygiene of your relationship. Right.
I love that hygiene of the relationship, because it's so important.
Hashtag relationship hygiene.
I love that. So, okay, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had to throw that in there because I always suggest, there's nothing wrong with having a third person, being objective, someone that doesn't have an agenda, and being able to help you communicate, because communication is key. All right, now back to what you were saying. So that's when a lot of people come see you in therapy, is when things are starting to fall apart a little bit.
Right. So the intimacy has cooled. They're not having as much sex as they used to. There's more conflict. There's issues with communication. You're starting to see more of your partner's like different parts, like sort of what we were talking about earlier.
Sorry, that's funny.
I mean, like they're different states, right? Like you see them, like we were speaking about earlier, like they're on their bad days, when they're stressed out, when they're frustrated, when they're like frumpy and sad and maybe like haven't been taking care of their like fitness regimen or like diet as much as they
I
were
thought of
once,
something else,
right? Like because they're stressed out, or like, so as you like start to see more of each other's like different states, and some of those states are just not exciting, it can affect the relationship. And one of the things that amazing sex and relationship therapist, who is based in New York, Esther Perel, has an amazing podcast. She's given TED Talks. She has tons of books. And she says this beautiful thing that I love to say to my clients, which is that love is not a permanent state of enthusiasm, right?
Wait, let me say that too. Love is not a permanent state of enthusiasm.
Exactly.
Oh, I know that with my children.
Parenting is not a permanent state of enthusiasm.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Parents out there.
I love that, by the way.
They know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So we have to keep that in mind, right? So like as things inevitably cool, you're going to feel that lull or that period of disconnect with your partner. And this is where this is where I come in, or other couples and relationship therapists and coaches come in, is to help people recognize what they can be doing to work together to support to support the relationship. When you think about it as a system, and taking care of each other, being attuned to each other, uh learning your love language, learning your partner's love language, and making sure that you are connecting in the right way. This is something that I see all the time, is that a partner maybe thinks that, like, they're giving all these gifts to their partner, and that's their way of, like, communicating love. But the partner's love language is not gifts. So they're receiving gifts, but it's just not landing, right? What they actually are craving is words of affirmation or quality time. And so in a couples therapy space, you can help people understand, like, these just little switches to the dial that need to be made in order for more connection to take place.
So can you tell me the five, is it five love
Five love
languages?
languages. Yeah. This is so good to know for yourself and for your partner. Physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service. And what's the last one?
I don't know, but I like time. So I'm just gonna
Oh,
attention.
that is the last
Is
one.
it? So
Quality time.
quality time.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because that's mine. Mine's
Yeah.
attention and quality time. Like I like to give the person attention, and I like to get attention, and I like quality time.
Mine is all of them
All of them?
except gifts.
That's hard.
I don't care.
You don't care if someone gives you gifts?
I appreciate it, but I would rather have quality time.
Yeah, I think that's mine. With my friends and with my lovers and with myself, I think attention and quality time, like being present and giving quality time. So that's mine. And yours was all of them except gifts.
Yeah.
I don't mind gifts, but they don't mean much to me, just because I had a boyfriend that every time he did something wrong, that would have gifts all the time. So now I associate gifts with someone doing something wrong. But time. Okay, so what else? So what happens when someone is now not having a lot of sex and they're kind of not into their lover? What do you do to, like,
Okay.
what's a good hack to just spark things back up?
Okay, so this is really interesting. So this again comes from the work of Esther Perel, who has, like, just taught me so much. She was really like the master of understanding the modern relationship. And what I want to describe right now is the paradox of modern relationships and why we struggle. And that is because when we get into a relationship, we have very conflicting needs, right? Because we have a need for safety and comfort and security that we get from being in a long-term relationship, right? From being familiar and vulnerable with a partner, feeling safe, cohabitating, all of that, right? The center of gravity that you build together that supports the life that you both have, which also involves very unsexy things like paying bills or figuring out who is going to pay for the shopping for new car insurance, or you have to go to the grocery store because you ran out of this, or hey babe, can you grab some Drano because the sink is clogged again. Not sexy, but you have to do these things together to support the life that you have, right? What else do we crave besides that safety and security and a partner to help attend to the business of life with? We also want to feel aroused. We want to feel like we are connected to our erotic self. And what are the ingredients that go into connecting to our erotic self? Well, it's a little risk, it's a little danger, it's a little mystery, it's a little intrigue, right? All of
Ooh.
those things that are happening at the beginning of a relationship that help us drop into that erotic space and feel playful and feel sexy. These things kind of get lost in like the comfort things. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, comfort will get you lazy, basically.
Basically. So we want the sexy danger partner, right? But we also want the person to snuggle with on the couch, who is helping us, adult.
So what do you do that? Do you set up date nights and then you come up with unusual ways to bringing those elements into the date, or what do you do? Because I feel like you need to allocate time. If you're living with someone, you need to allocate date time. That's for me is a non-negotiable, because I've had twins that I raised when I was living with my boyfriend, and we didn't do that. And that just killed our relationship's romance.
It's a huge part of it. Um, one of the ideas from Esther Perel that I really love, I know I'm talking about her a lot, but it's because she's brilliant.
Oh, it's all good.
She says foreplay starts right after the last time that you had sex. Does that make sense?
Oh, so you kind of have to just keep it going.
So you should be thinking about, like, how am I sort of seducing my partner to eventually like lead into the next time that we're going to connect and be intimate, right?
It's so funny because if you think about it from that perspective, it's much easier to carry something that, was just going on than as opposed to, light a whole new fire from scratch, to me, and kind of keep it going because you're in that sexy stage. And also another thing, I think this is horrible. This is probably going to get shot down hard.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
Is don't just let yourself go, because that's a huge one in relationships. When you're dating, you're just trying to kind of, look good and present yourself a certain way and be sexy. And a lot of times when people get really comfortable, they kind of just don't give a crap anymore and they start just not caring. But guess what? To me, in my opinion, you still want to seduce the person you're with. So, I mean, if there's someone who don't give a crap about the way you look or just a maintenance, then it doesn't really matter. Seduce them in a way that they want to be seduced. Some people, all they want is your attention. So, but for me, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times, a lot of people that I've spoken with in relationships, they're like, well, he's 50 pounds heavier than he was. And I'm not into it. Or she's not, and it's not because they had a baby, by the way. So let's take that out. But they just forgot that they were in a relationship. And that might be something they might yell at me for, but I think
I'm not gonna yell at you. I'm gonna
correct me.
I'm gonna spin this as what I would call like pride of ownership, but like ownership of yourself, like ownership of your physical body and health and self-care. Right?
Smart. See, mine was so bad.
You're fine. But like you want to be engaging in a regimen that involves taking care of yourself, right?
Mind, body, and soul.
Mind, body, and soul. Exactly. Like it's not just about your physical appearance, it's your mental health too, because how you feel about yourself is going to translate into how you show up physically and how you are taking care of yourself, right? It's also, this is something that's so important. So one of the things that we have studied and that we know is this beautiful question is, when do you find your partner most attractive? And the resounding answer is really interesting because the answer is, it's a little bit at arm's length. And a situation that I want you to think of for the people who are in relationships out there is that moment when, say, you're at a dinner party and you're sitting, kind of a little bit away from your partner, but you look over and you see them like fully engaged in conversation with somebody sitting next to them, and they're like totally shining, and you just see them like lit up and like engaged, and you're not directly participating in that moment, but you just have this moment of looking over and being like, like, yeah, that's my person. Like,
I love that.
Look at them. And that is really going to help to like keep that erotic connection going. Another really important thing to keep in mind here is to make sure that each of you continue to do the things that have always made you you. Those things that initially like brought you to feel attracted to that person. So like if you like rock climbing or you love dancing, these hobbies, these interests that you have that are part of your authentic self, make sure that you are still carving out time to do those things, and make sure that your partner is carving out that time as well. And it might not be things that you both love to do, and that's okay, because it's okay to have that space. It's okay to miss each other a little bit, and it's okay to have those moments of like, being like, yeah, my partner is doing this and I'll see them in a few hours, and I'm so excited that they're replenishing themselves by doing this thing that they love.
I have a question.
Yeah, tell me.
So if you see that person talking to someone else, and you're just like, oh gosh, that's my person, or
Oh no.
or Or you go away to do your replenishing thing and you don't want to see them and you don't want to go back home. What do you do in that case? Do you reevaluate the relationship altogether or just go to a therapist as fast as possible? Because hopefully, but you're in therapy by now.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Okay. So, I mean, it's okay to want to have a little spaciousness from your partner, right? But if you're dreading like going home or like dreading that moment of when you see them again, or like, yeah, if you like look down the table and you have this like feeling of like disgust or contempt,
Mhm.
that does not bode well for the health of your relationship or the longevity.
So you might be in the wrong relationship,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. So like what is offered in terms of things to like really take into consideration to let you know that you might not be in the right relationship or that things are maybe maybe moving towards ending. Two things: contempt or indifference.
Okay, so
So
define those.
so contempt is like real, I mean, that's extreme dislike
Like when you just want to throw up a little bit.
of your partner. Like you are really like grossed out by the things that they do. I mean, it's like, I
Yeah.
don't want to say hate, but like contempt is a very strong
Yes,
word.
I'm very familiar with that feeling in a
Yeah.
relationship.
Like if you're feeling that more often than not for the person that, you know, that ideally when things are going well, like you're building a life with this person, you love this person, you can be annoyed with each other, right?
But not grossed
But
out.
like contempt, disgust, like
Yeah.
that's a very important thing to take stock of if that's happening and if that's happening consistently, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Indifference, you just don't care when they do something that's not the best version of themselves, or you know, you just like you realizing that you're not connecting, um you're just like, eh, indifference, right?
Yeah. I have a friend and I asked them what their love language was, and they said space.
Oh,
Sorry, I had to share
okay.
that.
So we've got an avoidant attachment style. That's what that is.
It's so funny. Well, for me, not for the partner. So we talked about pre-dating to the dating process to the golden honeymoon stage, and then to when you're going through a little rough patch.
Mhm.
Is there anything you'd like to add for the rough patch before we wrap up?
I really want to emphasize this idea that we put forth earlier, that love is not a permanent state of enthusiasm, right? So like there are periods of feeling very connected with your partner and like things are flowing, and then there are periods where things may not be flowing. And that does not necessarily mean that you are doomed, right? You know, you are sometimes in a position like where a partner is maybe like going back to grad school and you're the one who's working, and you see them like very stressed out because of how much work they have to do. And you just have to keep in mind that like that will be for a season, but not a lifetime, you know? Um, don't throw in the towel too quickly when things get hard. You know, my grandparents used to say that we come from a generation where like when something was broken, you were not able to just like drive to the store and get something new immediately. Like you tried to fix something, you know. But if it really is, you know, reached a state where it's just not working, um it's also okay to say to yourself like, I deserve to be in a relationship that is healthy and working. And if that is not what I'm getting with this person, and I can really say to myself like in my heart of hearts, I've tried everything to get this to work that's in my control, and it's not working, and I want to create the space in my life, getting back to what we were talking about in the beginning, to be open to have a relationship that does work, that does, where you are feeling connected more often than not with this person. Um, it's okay. You have not failed just because you have to go through an uncoupling experience. Hopefully, you've learned something about yourself.
You will for sure have learned something
Yeah.
about yourself and what you need and what you want and where your boundaries are, and you've learned so many new skills. I feel like some people say, I wasted my time with this person. And I always say, no, you didn't. You upgraded. You're a new person. You're a better person than you were before because now you have new experience under your belt.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's really important not to look at relationships ending as failure
Hmm.
so much as feedback, because
Yeah.
your life goes on and we have seasons in our lives. I know people that have children, it's really hard because you feel like you failed your children, but ultimately you have to make the best of it, and your mindset in the ending process makes a huge difference on how this uncoupling experience will be experienced by you and the other person. And it's important to make it easier if possible and have a optimistic perspective on the uncoupling process.
Absolutely. For people who are parents, um, a reframe here is that you can think about what it's like to actually model for your child or children, um, having to get out of something that isn't healthy, right? And that could be something that they may have to face someday. And as much as like it is amazing when parents are able to stay together, this is not always the case, right? The numbers are in. And this could be like an opportunity to, eventually like have a conversation with your child about like choosing your mental health and safety by having to end a relationship, and like supporting them with that conversation when they're mature enough to be able to have that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for everything that you've said during this episode, Colin. I think we should have a breakup episode in the future.
Oh,
I think that would be a good one. I really want to do one.
let's do it.
And I've been through enough breakups to be able to do it on my own, but
You
you
and
will be. Let's
you and
see.
I both.
So thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I know it was one of my favorite episodes and favorite topics because of how important, how relevant the topic.
You say that to all the guests.
I do. No, I do. But this was one of the important ones. I love every episode so much, some more than others, but this definitely was relevant, important. And I think that I would listen to this again to remind myself, because we need reminders. A lot of this stuff you already instinctually know, but it's important to be reminded of it. And one last thing I want to say before we say goodbye, and it's for any relationship in your life, and that's to not take things personal. Remember that everyone is having their own experience, and they can only see you and your relationship through the lens of their own past experiences and their own processes. So it's important to understand what people say or do or think about you is really not about you. And it's the same. What you think about other people is not about them either. So if you have that understanding, it really helps get rid of a lot of misunderstandings.
Absolutely.
So,
I just want to say, Happy, thank you so much for having
of
me.
course,
I'm also going to shamelessly plug myself and my services really quick, if you don't
go for
mind.
it.
So if you or someone you know is looking for therapy support, whether that is individual therapy or couples therapy, you can absolutely reach out to me to do a free consultation to see if we would be a good fit to work together. And you can get all of that information about how to contact me on my website, which is www.colinstacktroost.com. That's COLINSTACKTROOST.com.
And it will be in the description. So if you want to just go scroll down, click.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day, and see you on or during the next episode. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.